You are listening to your new Puppies podcast, starting you and your dog off on the right paw. Here's your host, Debbie Salento.
Hello and welcome to episode 21 of your new Puppies podcast. I'm Debbie, and today we're going to talk about balancing socialization and vaccines. So for some of you, might be something you didn't even know that you had to do. Because the most common question that I get is about bringing your puppy outside before they're fully vaccinated. But the question usually comes up during the potty training discussion because I talk about bringing your dog outside as much as possible to create a habit of going to the bathroom outside and reduce the number of accidents inside. I also discourage the use of potty pads because I don't want your puppy to even have an inkling that he or she is allowed to go to the bathroom inside. So naturally, that question will come up if you've been given that advice. And the thing is that my answer has nothing to do with potty training. The short of it is that your dog, your puppy needs to be out and experiencing the world before they are fully vaccinated. Now, bear with me, especially because you may have gotten this advice from your vet, and your vet's word holds a lot of water, and I get it, and I don't take it personally, but bear with me for a second. So what I'm talking about is socialization. So if you don't know what socialization is, essentially it is just exposing your puppy to different people, places, environments, sounds, textures, everything, balloons, anything that they might encounter throughout their lives now. And the reason for that is because right now when your puppy is young, their brains are little sponges and they are growing at a phenomenally rapid pace and they are just absorbing the world around them. And they get exposed to all these different people, places, things, environments now. They will know how to deal with them later in life. Okay. So an under-socialized dog, a dog that didn't get all of that exposure when they were younger, can develop fearfulness. They're the type of dog that doesn't like to be handled. Maybe they avoid people. Maybe they're the ones that, chase cars or bark at men in hats. And that fear reaction to their environment is, first of all, sometimes it's hard to see that it's actually fear and it's looked on as aggression. It's also one of the hardest things to fix and train. 90% of the time, if a dog is fearful of its environment, it's because of lack of socialization. Now, why am I bringing this up with relation to vaccines? Because you want to expose your puppy to as many things as possible. And the most effective and efficient time to do that, and this is what science says, I'm not making this up, you can look this up, science tells us that it's between the ages of 3 and 16 weeks. That is when your puppy is just gonna absorb everything that's happening around them. It's going to be the most effective, and their curiosity and friendliness and social ability outweighs any fear they have of their environment. So think about the laid back puppy that just doesn't care what's happening around him and just wants to play all the time, to that dog who is a little cautious of anything that's new. Right? That starts to develop at 16 weeks. It's not like 16 weeks happens and then all of a sudden they're scared of everything. That's not what I'm saying. It's just the most effective during those younger times. And full vaccination sometimes doesn't happen until 14 to 16 weeks. So we don't want to wait that long. We might have already missed our most effective window for this really important type of training. So if you are getting your advice from this vet, because a lot of vets, they get this because this is newer. It's not brand new, but it is definitely more recent than, say, vaccines. The past decade or so, we've really learned after studying dogs and studying their behavior that socialization in these first few months is just as important as their vaccines to keep them healthy. Socialization keeps them mentally and behavior development healthy. But there's still a lot of vets out there that say you got to keep your puppy indoors until they're vaccinated, which is understandable because your vet's job is to keep your puppy physically healthy and to guarantee that, yeah, you're going to keep your dog inside. So I can totally understand how, it's a slow to change kind of advice. But I do have backup because I understand that you're going to be more willing to listen to your vet than some girls' advice over, this podcast. The AVSAB, which is the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior. So these are vets that specialize in animal behavior. Okay, because something else to keep in mind is that vets typically don't have a whole lot of education in animal behavior. They get some, but that's not what they specialize in. They specialize in their bodies and in their physical care. So coming back to this, these are vets that specialize in behavior. So they have a position statement on puppy socialization, which goes into exactly what I'm talking about. And this is a group of vets. So that's why I will link to their website in the show notes. And I will also put this statement right in my show notes, okay, which you'll find at playtimepause.com/episode 21. So that's playtimepause.com/episode 21. You can go straight to their website. If you have a pen and paper, you want to write it down now. It's www.avsab.online.org. Otherwise, the link is right in my show notes. Okay, so this position statement is just a 2-page little newsletter looking thing that talks about how important socialization is, and it also gives some advice on how to handle specifically dog-dog socialization. And I think the most powerful part of this statement, which I want to point out, is where they talk about that the number one cause of death for dogs under the age of 3 is behavioral issues, because those behavioral issues cause them to be surrendered to shelters. So, and I'm going to read this straight from the statement, while puppies' immune systems are still developing during these early months, the combination of maternal immunity, primary vaccination, and appropriate care makes the risk of infection relatively small compared the chances of death to a behavioral problem. Really super powerful to understand, because that gets me to my point of what we want to do is balance the risks, balance vaccinations and socialization, because I don't want you to ignore your vet, because I don't want your puppy to get sick. But I also understand how we need to get your puppy out there and experiencing the world, because because not doing that can cause a slew of behavior problems later. Some might be minor, some might be major. There's no guarantees in any of this. What we're trying to do is reduce the risks as much as possible. So what do you do? What do you do from here? Okay, this is usually what I tell my clients. The first thing I want you to do is have an honest conversation with your vet. Actually, check that. The first thing I want you to do is go read this statement from the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior. Okay, because I don't want you to just take my word for it. I want you to do your research and really understand what I'm talking about. Okay, then I want you to have an open conversation with your vet about the true risks of your dog getting sick, because it really will depend on your area. Some areas are higher risk than others, and that's going to help you decide what your next step is balancing that. So we're going to play it smart. If we want our dogs to play with other dogs, then we're not going to take them to a dog park where we don't know those dogs and who knows what's sitting out there. We take them to a daycare, or we take them to a puppy class where we know the dogs are vaccinated. We know that the facility makes sure that they're healthy. Also, stores are a fantastic place to take your dog to socialize them. There are sounds and people and textures and so many different sights for them to see that they wouldn't see sitting in your house. But maybe we don't take them to a pet store. Maybe we make a little effort and we find a dog-friendly store, a local dog-friendly store, that maybe we just put them in the cart. So even though they're not walking around and fully investigating everything, at least they're seeing things. And, if you have a puppy in your shopping cart, Strangers are going to come out of the woodwork to pet them, and that is socialization. I know, I'm not a fan of strangers. I'm an introvert through and through. So I know for some of you, you're like, yeah, I don't want that. But keep in mind, it's really great for your puppy. And remember, they're not paying attention to you. They don't even care that you're there. They're petting your puppy. Anyway, moving on. So we skip the park that's full of dogs, but a walk down your neighborhood street is probably fine. Okay, so just like everything I talk to you about on this podcast, I encourage you to find your own information. Do your research, find more information. My job is to alert you that this is out there. That socialization is one of the most important types of training, preventative training that you can do for your puppy. Expose him to all these things now so he's not scared of them later. So he knows how to handle them later. But I do also understand we want to keep our puppies physically healthy. So that's why this episode is called Balancing Socialization and Vaccinations. Okay, that's all I have for you today. I will be speaking with you soon, but until then, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to your New Puppies podcast. Learn more about us at playtimepaws.com.
Hello, Debbie here. I just wanted to pop back in to let you know about my brand new 4-week puppy course. So if you're thinking about getting a puppy, or maybe you already have one, this is my new 4-week course where I go over all the stuff that you need to get through puppyhood. So it's a lot of stuff that I talk about on the podcast, but I go into greater detail, and throughout the course, you have direct access to me to answer all of your questions. And there's even an option for a one-on-one training video session with me throughout the course. So if you're interested, you can head over to playtimepaws.com/puppy, and I hope to see you over there. Bye for now.